Hey everybody, GP, again in my office, studio, bedroom. This is another response to a comment I got on the video that I did, a presence tapping video. And I'm going to be posting this video on both the tapping channel and the spirituality channel. And I've separated those two out for a very good reason, which has probably become even more clear when I talk about this. It's a comment that touched me, one that I've seen a lot of, and oh, little doggy, and one that I really wanted to do my best to try to clarify for everybody, and that's this relationship between non-dual self-inquiry and emotional health, emotional happiness. It's a big one, and there can be a lot of conflict between the two sides. One side saying, no, you shouldn't pay any attention to the emotions whatsoever. And the other side says, non-duality is a spiritual bypass, period, end of story. Neither of those positions are true, to me, certainly not in my experience. So I wanted to answer this particular comment. So I'm going to read this. And it's got a name. Let's see, Bank Z Fortnite. Anyway, this is Dear GP. I really struggle right now. I believe I need self-love and compassion, as I struggle with a lot of emotional pain. This was on the if I didn't mention that before, it's a presence tapping video called Loving Awareness, Finding Compassion for Yourself. So you can see where the comment came from. It says, but every time I engage in non-dual teachings, I start to devalue giving myself love and care. This has a very bad effect on me because I then block myself from receiving what I need to heal. I don't know how to fix this problem. I totally get it. And as I said earlier, there seems to be this schism between between non-dual self-inquiry and emotional healing. And for me, there isn't. There isn't one. Maybe my position is a little bit different, but let me see if I can address this in specific. There are particular schools of teaching about non-duality that focus specifically on, almost exclusively on, this is an illusion, none of it matters, there's no purpose, there's no me, there's no meaning to anything, it's all empty, nobody's here, there's nothing to do. Now, that's all true, but it's not the truth. It's not the whole picture. And it's kind of the traditional teachings of Vedanta and Advaita that have made it over to the West, right, have kind of been a bit distorted by the Western mind. You know, there was a time when before you would hear anything like what somebody would be talking about in non-duality, including myself, you had to apprentice, be with a master, right, who's already self-realized, serve them for 12 years before you ever got to hear any of the stuff that you can now just go to YouTube, type in enlightenment, boom, and get 400 videos on the subject of all different flavors from all different points of view. So if you realize that traditionally there was a preparation that had to take place to make somebody ready to hear those, so that they wouldn't be receiving the teaching through their old context of how they saw the world. Right? Now, to me, the equivalent to that in our modern world would be the non-dual teachings and emotional healing. I call it emotional healing, but it can be the cultivation of a character, however you want to put it, just developing a more refined individuality. Even though at some point you're going to see through that individuality that it too isn't actually who you are. But you can't say that right in the beginning. You can't just say that to somebody. Now, I work with a lot of people in groups and individually, and the horror stories I've heard, childhood abuse and trauma and the things that people have gone through, the depth of their emotional distress and pain. I can't, in good conscience, throw some non-dual statement like it's all an illusion at them. It would not only not serve any purpose, it would bring about nothing of value. It would actually make it worse. It would actually increase suffering. Right? So I won't do that. Right? And the teachers that I know that I believe are true teachers wouldn't do that either. It's recognized that there is a preparation of the heart necessary for this. Okay? Now, I also find that those people who are in need of that kind of emotional healing, they're not coming to my satsangs. They're not coming to my non-dual T with G and the like. They're coming to the tapping channel. They're not coming to the spirituality channel. They're coming to the tapping channel. They're watching my tapping videos and doing them and getting a sense of relief from their pain, a release from suffering. So it becomes confusing because remember, the reason why somebody had to apprentice with somebody for 12 years before they heard any of this stuff, heard a word about it, was to gradually get them out of the context, their worldview, the assumed nature of reality that we all get, right, when we're growing up, right? So that when the teachings come, they can be received without that context coloring it. Now, the Western mind is very different from the Eastern mind. The way we see things, the way we conceptualize things, we're very much in our heads, taught to be that way. We deny our feelings, we suppress our feelings. That's what trauma is, an extreme suppression of what you actually experience and a denial of it deep inside of you. And so to just throw non-dual speak into that stew, right? It's inevitably going to be interpreted from the point of view of the prior context. Now, as a teacher of both emotional healing and non-duality, I see it happen all the time. I see people that are taking non-duality and completely misunderstanding it. Non-dual teaching is not therapeutic. It's not about healing. It's not about fixing things in your life. Now, paradoxically, when it's done correctly, when the person is ready, it has the therapeutic effect on all of that in your life. And in fact, there's a point at which you no longer need the various kinds of emotional release and techniques and therapies that may have been required before, because you're working on a completely different level. It's like the wake of a boat. I use this example all the time. When you get into a boat, you're going somewhere. You're not spinning around in circles to make wakes, but the act of going somewhere makes a wake. Think of that wake as the therapeutic result, as a healing of mind and body. But where you're going is to what the goal of all healing is, and that is the inherent reality of your wholeness that doesn't need healing. Now that's the deep non-dual spiritual view that says you are that already. You can't take that and say that to somebody who's experiencing the middle of their trauma and the like. And so while all of the techniques of emotional healing and therapy and the like can do amazing, wonderful things for making us more functional, making us more open, removing a great deal of suffering. They can't answer the question, who am I? It's not within their context. And the purpose of non-dual inquiry is not primarily therapeutic. Right? So they are very different. And oftentimes what happens is, because people are interested in both, and I would think most of the people who have come to me, at least initially, it's been a mixture of both. And sometimes I've been able to take somebody in the process of emotional healing and bring them into, to a certain extent, non-dual teaching. And sometimes I have to take people who are all in non-duality and bring them back, give them a little tapping, to kind of settle things down so that they have more of an open mind, a different context in which they can begin to receive the non-dual teachings. It works both ways, right? So they're not in conflict with one another. That's really important. They're not fighting each other, nor is it one or the other. They are not the same. They don't serve the same purpose. And where somebody is in their life will depend on where's the most appropriate thing for them. Not everybody is ready to engage in a deep non-dual dialogue, especially to do it in such a way that they don't cut themselves off from their humanity. It's all an illusion. Nothing is real. There's nobody. Don't have to do anything. It'd just be incredibly confusing, as it was for Bank Nick Z Fortnite, right? It had he said, I engage in non-dual teachings, I start to devalue myself, love and care. Giving myself love and care. Well, if none of this matters, well then why do it, right? Because it does matter. Even from the non-dual perspective, which goes completely beyond the sense of a human personality and persona to the reality of your being. It does not deny the human. Right? When you transcend something, go beyond something, you don't throw this out. Right? You subsume it. It gets, all of the lower stuff gets taken to a higher place, seen from a higher place. So our human life is no longer seen as being just the person living out things as best they can. The person begins to disappear. The sense of being a personal, separate being begins to disappear, and you begin to realize that all life, including human life, is the very manifestation of that one infinite being. In other words, they're one. You are that. The human you is that. This one, the one that gets the flu, the one that gets, wakes up in the morning groggy and irritable, the one that gets hungry and blows their nose, not always at the same time. That's it. This is the expression of the divine, and all of these all the contrasts and variation, everything is just what's required for this infinite oneness to manifest itself. It manifests in form, and yet it itself remains forever formless. It manifests as individual people and places and things and bugs and animals and plants and rocks and everything, but it never gets caught in it. Right? It's kind of like music. Music can be manifested in all sorts of different kinds of music and the like, and it's constantly changing. But music doesn't get inside one of those and get stuck, and that's the end, right? And this kind of oneness can't be understood by our minds. The human mind, for all of its power and its value, cannot fathom oneness. If you look at how we think, how we do language, everything requires two. This described in terms of that. Everything requires a subject and an object. But in the oneness of true being, there isn't a subject and an object. There is only the subject. The perceived element is a reflection of the one. It is not something other than the one. While you looking at yourself in the mirror, it's there you are in the mirror, but it's not you. It's you, but it's not you. And this, when you see it this way, you realize that this ultimate oneness is love. Just this incredible love for its own manifestation. That which has poured out of itself, like the mother giving birth out of her own body. It has that flavor. It's not cold. It's not empty. It's not devoid. There's nobody here. There's nothing to do. We're all here. Everything is here. Everything is really here, but it has no reality separate from that from which it is emanating in this moment. Creation wasn't a point in time back there, set this thing in motion, then sat back and watched. It is constantly being regenerated, constantly flowing from the divine source, like light, right? You turn the light bulb on in the room, and it's not like you just turn it on once and then you can turn it off because it's filled the room with light, and the light is static. Oh, it's there now. I can take it off and save it for later. It's a constant flow. The moment you turn it off, the light's gone because it's a flow. This is the nature of all experience and all life. That it is a constant creation in the moment. It's not even creation, doesn't even work for it anymore. It's an emanation in the moment. The sunbeam and the sound. I'm going to do another video just about that metaphor of the sunbeam and the sun. So I hope that clears it up. Sometimes you need emotional healing. Sometimes you just need to kind of go back and be with it. Yes, we can get stuck in emotional healing, right? And become perpetual fixers. We can get stuck on the self-help treadmill. The remedy for getting stuck on the self-help treadmill is to understand that that who you really are is beyond all that. Right? It's already perfect and divine. But you can't just say that, right? You come to see that. And there's an opening that takes place through allowing and practice and the cultivation of virtues that aren't for gaining merit, for some kind of future payoff, but are just cultivating. Open the mind, opening the heart, opening yourself, just making yourself as ready as you possibly can, so that when the light comes, you're there and looking in the right direction to see it, and suddenly it all makes sense. And the first glimmer of that light coming to you is when even the idea, the potential of a state called enlightenment or self-realization gets your attention. And then maybe it's a book, and then maybe it's watching a satsang by somebody on YouTube, and at which point it's happening, right? It doesn't mean stop this now, stop doing that. We're no longer going to do that because it's all this now. But you let yourself naturally gravitate towards it, like anything any technique or practice you've been doing that you eventually outgrow, and you go into the next level of it. This is no different in terms of the human practice of it. And then you begin to be able to approach the deep realizations that while all of that healing has been going on, and the reason it's been able to go on and to get to a place of emotional healing is because the truth of you has always been that you are beyond the need of healing. You are the end goal. You are the end result. And in fact, you always have been. And the belief that you are not, the assumption that you are not, begins to fade away. And with the assumption that you're not fading away, the need for the recurring emotional healing fades with it until you see yourself as you actually are. Full of love, full of compassion, not cultivated compassion, but instantaneous, spontaneous compassion, because it is your nature. It's almost like cultivating all these virtues. You're simply practicing being you. Until you realize, oh, I've always been me. Does that help anybody out there? Please let me know. It's such an important subject. I just had to dedicate a video to it when it came up once again, because it comes up for me all the time. So anyway, love you all. Thank you for listening. Please comment. I want to know how you feel about this and if it's helpful. And I will see you in the next video. Till then, be well and namaste.